I'd like to ask briefly about three transparency issues. The first one, I'm kind of amazed hasn't been brought up more in this room. That is that Vanity Fair reported recently that on October 22nd, a group of health experts from Harvard, the Rockefeller Foundation, and other groups proposed on a Zoom meeting with administration officials a plan to mass distribute coronavirus tests to homes before Christmas to prevent a winter surge of COVID-19 cases, but that they were told 3 days after that Zoom meeting that that idea was dead. So I emailed you about this yesterday and again this morning so that you'd be able to track down a firm answer on two details here. The first detail is which administration officials attended that October 22nd meeting. For example, did Drs. Fauci and Walensky participate? And was President Biden personally briefed at the time on that recommendation before it was passed over?
Well, maybe people haven't asked about it because we've done a lot of what was discussed in that meeting that happened a couple of months ago, including massively expanding our testing program and capacity. And the issue at the time, which was a very small part of the conversation, was that the market had not expanded enough to at that moment in time be able to launch the website we're launching tomorrow.
The idea, though, to mass distribute tests to homes before Christmas and New Year's, that idea was not adopted. How can President Biden shut down the virus if he's, not being briefed on these ideas? That's my question. So I'm wondering who were the advisors, and was President Biden briefed on this idea at the time?
Well, I think I just answered your question, which you may not have been listening. Maybe you were waiting to read your next question, which is fine. But I just answered your question. Let me finish, Stephen, I'm finishing. What I said to you just a minute ago is that we did not have the capacity at the moment. We had a very constructive meeting with this group. We agreed in the need to expand our testing capacity. That's why we quadrupled the size of our testing capacity and why the president had already used the Defense Production Act to invest $3 billion. But the market did not have the capacity at that moment to do what we're doing tomorrow.
Yes, I hear what you're saying, but that's not the question I asked. The question I asked was,
do you have another question? I think I've answered your question.
Was President Biden briefed at the time?
Again, I've answered your question. If you have another one, I'm happy to answer it. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to the next person.
I didn't get answers there, but I'll move on to another one.
Great.
The second question is that in light of President Biden's first year coming to a close, the data indicates that he spent a quarter of his days, at least partially, in Delaware. In light of that, will the White House be reconsidering the decision not to release visitor log information from his Delaware residences?
Well, the president goes to Delaware because it's his home. It's also where his son and his former wife are buried. And it's a place that is obviously close to his heart. A lot of presidents go visit their home when they are president. We also have gone a step further than the prior administration and many administrations in releasing visitor logs of people who visit the White House, and we'll continue to do that. Go ahead in the back. I think we're done, and we're going to move on. Go ahead in the back.
But even Dr. King's assassination did not have the worldwide impact that George Floyd's death did.
But also, I wonder if you'll respond to some of the criticism about it, that it was too aggressive or divisive, and that some of the rhetoric that he used wasn't conducive to getting folks who are opposed on board.
Well, sorry, which piece did you want me to start with?
Whichever one is best for you.
Okay. Well, I would say first that the president delivered a powerful speech about the protection of people's fundamental rights.
Do you want to be on the side of Dr. King or George Wallace? Do you want to be on the side of John Lewis or Bull Connor? Do you want to be on the side of Abraham Lincoln or Jefferson Davis?
It was not a partisan speech. It was intended to lay out for the public exactly what's at stake and lay out for elected officials what's at stake. And he stands by everything he said in that speech.
I know where I stand. I will not yield. I will not flinch. I will defend the right to vote, our democracy against all enemies, foreign and, yes, domestic.
Anniversary. He has long said that he would talk straight from the shoulder, I think is his words, to give an honest assessment of things. What is your honest assessment of the last year of the Biden administration, and how can the voting rights failure not be seen as some type of a metaphor for these challenges?
Well, I would say in terms of voting rights, his view is that it's never a good idea not to shoot for the moon with what your proposals are and what you're fighting for. And the alternative is to fight for nothing and to fight for nothing hard. And that oftentimes, as you know, you've covered a couple of administrations, you don't get everything done in the first year. But what we feel good about, and this is coming into an incredibly difficult circumstance, a massive economic downturn as a result, an administration that was prior to us that did not effectively deal with a lot of these crises, that there's been a lot of progress made.
Because now he's in the midst of what one famous children's book writer called a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad time. Actually, the 1-year mark of Biden's term. His push to change Senate rules so he can pass voting rights, dead. His Build Back Better bill, at best, stalled. His vaccine mandate for big businesses, blocked. Consumer prices, soaring. COVID hospitalizations, surging. COVID tests and treatments in short supply. And these are just the issues that Biden is facing in the United States.
We must galvanize behind is recognizing that, yes, we've come through a difficult time with this virus known as COVID. But there's an insidious virus that's attacking our very core of our democracy, and that's known as voter suppression. We must link arms together to fight against what's going on, not in our state, thank God, but all across America.
On 5G, the FAA has had 2 years to come up with a plan for this, to deal with this implementation. Should they have acted sooner to minimize disruption? Did the FAA drop the ball here?
I think, Mary, there'll be lots of time to look back and see how we got here. And I know many of you will do that. And of course, that is understandable. But right now, over the next 24 or less than 24 hours, what we're focused on is trying to come to a solution that will minimize travel disruptions to passenger travel, cargo operations, and our economic recovery. And that is why it's so important to hopefully come to an agreement and ensure more planes are flying.
Higher language to describe what's going to happen tomorrow if the president doesn't step in and take action. They're saying that the nation's commerce will grind to a halt, that the vast majority of the traveling and shipping public will essentially be grounded. Does the president share the view that the airlines have about how bad this is going to be if the White House doesn't step in?
Well, I think what we're trying to do now is come to a solution to avoid exactly that. And it is true that if there are hundreds or thousands of flights that are grounded, that means not just disruptions to passenger travel, that also means cargo operations.
6 former administration officials last week wrote that open letter urging the administration to change course, to change strategy. Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day. Every day it is time for us to agree that there are things and tools that are available to us to slow this thing down. It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
Our education standards for math and reading are now the lowest in the nation. Unelected political appointees lowered standards, which inevitably led to a decline in student performance. 60% of students don't meet national proficiency standards. Remarkably, these dramatic declines, noted by the National Center for Educational Statistics, have only seen one Virginia school that was deemed failing because accreditation standards were lowered. Starting now, we're ending the accountability shell game intended to make us feel good, but amount to the often stated soft bigotry of low expectations. Let's stop cheating our kids.
Our children are not learning. We don't have time to teach about oppression, that the child is a victim, that the white kids are the oppressors. We don't have time in the school day for that. I am proof that we are progressing. I am an immigrant, and in the former capital of the Confederacy, I am second in command of the entire Commonwealth of Virginia of 8-point-some million people. When are we going to start saying to ourselves, we can make it, we are making it? Let's look at life as being overcomers. This too we will overcome. Say that to black and brown children and all other children. Say that to them instead of constantly being divisive.